Morning, everybody. What's going on? Hey, we got another lame gap on the market. It's actually going to take us right into this kind of 9 EMA area. We may fade off a little bit at the open. The market's definitely starting to show the signs of rebounding. There are some little bit of signs of distribution here. But one thing is like distribution in the indexes don't really matter anymore because there's so many indexes to track and so many ETFs. The actual, like, for example, like the SPY's been in distribution for like a decade. It doesn't necessarily matter as much as it used to, but overall it's still, we've got a rounding pattern at the 50 SMA. This 270 was like a rock, that was the big level that had been, kind of been marinating on for quite some time, and now we're starting to run back. If we pop back over the 9 EMA, then we'll probably just kind of make our way back towards highs or something similar to that. It's never linear, but we're getting into we're getting definitely into that. I'd say we're getting kind of into that sweet spot. So today's gonna be tricky just because the gap. We had a gap yesterday too. And you can see what happened yesterday. The market shredded like right off at the open. And then it was, marination station for like a good chunk of the day where kind of like things looked like a breakout, but they weren't a breakout. And they looked like a breakout. And they just, you just couldn't get any traction like into the later in the day. And then, you kind of faded off. There was like some pockets of good stuff though. And now we got a gap out over yesterday's range. So this is kind of what I'm looking at for today. And then we'll kind of see like what goes down. First things first, since we're running into resistance and it's a day 2 gap, meaning the indexes are gapping up again for day 2. I do expect probably a little bit of a pull at the open, but it won't be much. The key always on like when you pull at the open on an index, the key is just going to be like, how does it handle around yesterday's highs? That's where like if it's if you're gonna have like a bounce or like more of a fade. Now it's not that far away anyway, so if we get a little snapback at the open, I'll look and see how we're starting to marinate at yesterday's highs. If we start to hold there, then we start to load in and we just play for nice size bounce day in the markets. If we don't hold, then we'll kind of pull back a little bit more and we may stay in a range for a little bit of time. Now, we've known the market, like if you see over here, right? The market's had spots where it stays in range for like 2-3 weeks at a time, and it can even be a volatile range that's very tradable. And so, that could also be in the cards. It doesn't feel like it yet, but that could be in the cards too. So we'll see kind of how we're acting around this 9 EMA. Do we pull and hold, or do we start to fade back? If we start to fade back and fill up this gap, then that will give us a sign that, frankly, we're going to be... that'll give us a sign that we're just going to be stuck in a little bit of range for, I don't know, maybe a week or two, and then we'll see kind of what's going on. But I don't believe that's the case, at least based on current price action. Now let's take a look and see just like what kind of earnings plays are out there. Obviously, this has been like a hot market for just any kind of stock with news. You could have... you could say anything, right? You could put out a PR and say, you're sending... golden retrievers this space, and that's going to get bought up and you're going to make some money. And so you're starting to see, already this morning, all sorts of stuff. Now, these kind of small cap stocks in general, like see this one's already fading off. These are turds, probably stay away from it. An interesting probably play for today, this IPOB, this is like a new SPAC, but they've already announced a public merger. Social Capital is one of my boys, the Indian guy, I can't even say his name, Chamat something. He's a good-looking Indian dude, too. So right off the bat, like, we trust him, right? You don't see too many of my boys run around in the finance market on CNBC. Not ones, like, without, like, really grotesque mustaches and stuff. He's a good-looking dude. Just off the bat, like, this has got, like, a ton of heat on it. You're already seeing like 8 million shares in volume. You know what I mean, D-Fish. You just don't see my boys in like the hedge fund business making money moves. We're the guys like behind the scene, like, hello. This is looking nice. Just because it's one of my boys, we gotta have to play it no matter what. Play it no matter what. This could be like the hottest stock of today, just because. Just because of one of my boys. My boys. Now, the one thing that I have noticed with SPACs, though, is they tend to like run before the merger. Once the merger is announced, you know, they don't necessarily like just keep flying. So I am a little bit curious. If you look at like all the SPACs that have been really, really going, they tend to run like the 2-3 weeks before the merger, which this one was already doing. I am a little bit curious on whether it's got legs, but we'll see kind of what's going on. I'd add it now, you know, with the simple caveat that, you know, if it's one of my boys, we know we can trust it. All right. Hennessy Capital, junk. These SPACs have been going just nuts. Facao, Chrysler stinks. Junk. Camping Worldwide, what's going on here? Camping Worldwide plans to grow adjusted EBITDA mid-single digits over 5 years. Doesn't sound that sexy. So this has like been really flying. So this thing used to be $3. It's going to $4 because I guess with the coronavirus, all of a sudden people have figured out how to camp. You know, Indian people are, man. You know, we have a camping trip like, you know, every year, and my dad always sleeps in the car. That's, you know, I don't know, but we always have a camping trip, and my dad always sleeps in the car because, you know, he doesn't like those skeeters. You know, you don't like those skeeters. So he's always sleeping in the car. The rest of us, we can't even get anything going. But I guess there's a lot of us type of people who normally wouldn't go camping. They start to go camping. This thing is starting to announce its earnings. Now, frankly, it doesn't look that sexy, but the chart is really nice. I mean, like, in a market where everything is growing like 200%, like they're going like, hey guys, we're growing 5%. Doesn't really sound that sexy, but we have only a 66 million share float. And frankly, if it breaks like 40-ish, I think you're going to have a chance on this one to get going. It don't read that well, and frankly, when you have like stocks that have earnings out, what are always the best choices? You always start like, say you got 10 stocks with earnings out, right? And you're like reading the news on them, right? You always start with tech, and then you go biotech. Always tech, biotech, and healthcare, med tech above all else. And then every year, there's like different flavors, like the different themes. So this year, what are themes? SPACs are a theme. Electric vehicles are a theme. IPOs are a theme, and you know, that's the theme this year. In previous years, we've had other stuff, right? Like we've had, you know, cancer stocks and this kind of stock, and you know, whatever it might be, oil stocks, and you know, so on and so forth. So like this is nice, but it doesn't necessarily fit the theme of what's working in the market either, right? Vaccine stocks were hot this year, so on and so forth. UBX, junk. So NVAX has been a man's agreement with Serum Institute of India. Ooh. My boys are back in play again. Serum Institute of India, very good. Okay. We'll put this on. You know, this one's obviously been rebounding quite a bit. It's on like day 5, day 6 of the move. So I'm not sure if it's going to be like how smooth it's going to be. But yesterday, like we had a big trend on it. I would add that to the list for now. It looks like we may be getting a little bit of a rebound in some of these vaccine stocks. You can see like this INO. We got VXRT like had a pop yesterday. So, you know, right? Why not? You know, VXRT had a really nice pop yesterday. Gets FDA clearance for oral COVID vaccine candidate phase 1 trial. So I would keep a couple of these. Like I would put VXRT. I would put NVAX on the list. You're starting to see, you know, obviously this was, the original move was so much hype, and then they came crashing down once everybody figured out, like, you know, holy shit, like these things were $2. Now they ran to 200. So now they've all given back over half. You know, like most of them have come back 75% off the lows or off the highs. So now you're starting to see kind of like that, okay, hey, let's get back to reality, and we're starting to get picked up on these things. I'd add NVAX, and I would add VXRT to the list for today. I think both of those are going to have like a nice little chance on it. So this NOx is, popping up a little bit. Fuck. You know what? We should hit this in the pre-market. I was just staring at it. I even had a bunch of alerts set for when it taps the 9. Fuckers. So the action on this thing was nasty yesterday. Like, when you get that kind of nasty action, I won't chase a gap on this. My plan was to kind of long this off the 9 EMA. It's not really, it's not this. That's not a priority of mine anymore. Take it off the list. Tesla's gapping up 4%. This one's in a straight bounce mode. Anybody pick this bad boy up off the 50 SMA? Shit. It's kind of one of those ones where you toss 100, uses like a 10, 20 point stop. You might wake up and have 20 G's. Fuckers. Yeah, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, day 5 of the move. Probably, this is not in the cards for me either. Like, you can't, when the market's been acting choppy like this, you don't want to really come in on a day 5 of a move. Now, this OSDK is interesting. It was troublesome for me yesterday, only because my entries were dog shit. We had a nice move end of day off the VWAP, which was good, but I was fucking around with it yesterday, over here. You know what? My entries were just a little bit high, and then it was like, I was just doing like, kind of like, hey, this is my first time trading kind of action. My entries were too high. We ended up getting a little bit, for a shred at the end of day. I think this 80 is going to be a spot. If you look at the kind of 15-minute chart, you've got this kind of level over here. Now just ignore this part here. Sometimes when you draw trend lines and stuff, it's important to just like, if you have like an outlier, just like pretend like it never happened, right? It's like you would do in anything in your life, right? It's like sometimes you see something like, I'm going to pretend that never happened. So let's pretend like this 80 is just like this nice clean level and this never happened. If you can break and hold over 80 at some point today, this will have a chance. Now, remember, with the market gapping up, like, you don't want to be chasing entries right off the bat at the open. A 1.3% gap in the Qs is like, that's a decent sized gap. You're going to have like 100 NASDAQs up on the table. As soon as the market opens, let it pull back, right? I keep an alert. Like, this is what I'd always do. Set alerts. Like, where are your levels of support? So you get like 277, you get this 275 zone, and then, you have this 273, which is actually more important because that would start the gap fill. So like, you have some levels that you can start watching. If you start to pull back and hold on those, then, you want to kind of start looking at the, the regular watch list and see what's going on. Let's see on the downside if we got anything. So Nicola's getting shredded again. Nicola Market Chatter, under SEC review over short seller fraud claims. I don't know if that really actually even means anything at this point because, well, frankly, like everybody already knows this thing's like everybody already knows this thing's a turd. I don't know if that's like a huge deal. So let's see. Let me see what the borrow rates are on this thing. They're going to be estimated daily interest. Damn! E-Trade got borrow rates up the wazoo on this thing today. We were playing this yesterday. Most likely it was just a squeeze, like a dead cat bounce is what we would call it. If it pops up at the open, and it very well might, because, okay, so you get some news that, SEC is going to review this. It doesn't necessarily mean everything, because, when you have a stock and everybody knows it's a turd, and, if you have, this big, steaming, just gelatinous pile of, dog poo, and somebody says, hey, that's dog poo, everybody already knows it's dog poo, right? So it may not already, it may not matter, but I am leaning short. If this thing kind of squeezes at the open and does a fake red to green, that's when we take it short, right? If it does a fake red to green, so let it pop, and then you just start to, right? You just start to do a little bit of a marination station, and I think you'll be, frankly, you'll be good to go. Does that make sense? Cool. Yeah, I think it's going to get faded. It's probably going to get faded, but I'd like to, kind of do it into pops. this SEC thing probably does not matter. Let's see, Fran's a dirty, dirty little girl. Fran's getting smoked on some news. Dirty little girl. Sorry, Fran. It's hard to short these kind of $3 stocks after earnings. There's just no room on them. So this Sava is most likely a pump and dump. Is that going to give any action? Look, it's down 8%. If it pulls down like 10, down about 10%, the SSR will trigger on it. At that point, you can probably look at it for a potential long. I'm not going to touch it. Small caps are not my thing, but in general, you know, you may get a little action on it. All right, so that's it for earnings plays. I don't see anything that's that sexy, but there's tons of just regular stocks out there. So let's get into this. Hold on, little mama. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so let's take a look at this MRSN. So MRSN has, let me go back over here. We got a big breakout here. This is a biotech stock. It's a low float. It's only about 1 billion shares in market, $1 billion in market cap. You have an IPO breakout here. You know, however you want to draw it, but you're basically at IPO breakout. You had a big day yesterday, power candle. That's a power news gap, I guess you could call it, or like a power earnings gap, or whatever you want to call it. We just call it PR breakout. The range on it was pretty good. You know, you had a nice easy pull back into, you know, 20 EMA and ended up popping like $3, $4 and close. I got an alert set here at yesterday's highs. If this thing takes out 24.55, I think that'll probably trigger like a second day play, and we'll be able to take this thing back into it. I do worry about the liquidity on it. It did 5 million shares yesterday, so it's got more than enough volume. But sometimes you can have all the volume in the world, but you may not necessarily have pure liquidity. Well, maybe liquidity is, you know, when you do 3, 4, 5 million shares, you should be able to get in and out really easy. But the problem becomes, like, you know, if you're trying to get in like 2, 3, 4,000 shares, you want to make sure that if there's a spread, you're really not, you know, market ordering that thing on the ask, because you'll end up getting just smoked out just on the spread and the difference, right? Like, I mean, there's some stocks out there, you know, we trade, it's like they got 30, 40 cents spread. You know, you roll in like 2 G's, you know, 2,000 shares on the, you know, on a market order. It's got 40 cents spread. You know, you're just down $800 right off the bat. So you got to be a little bit careful with it. But I do like the overall look of that. There was another one here that looks pretty good. This AMTI is like another IPO. These little ones, like this one only did a couple million shares in volume, but these little thin little bastards, like that are a little bit thinner, but they just have just enough liquidity for you to get in and out. I mean, they can go, I mean, they can really, really shred. Like, you see like how this thing's just marinating at the VWAP, and you just push like $4 or $5 into close. That's the kind of action I want to see. I don't really care about percentages, right? I want to see dollar ranges. Ranges that I can trade around. Does a stock act well around the setups and the indicators and things that we use on our charts? And then does it have the range? Like, can I get in and out of this thing easily? You know, and I think that's going to be always important. Yeah, let's add that one. It's going to be similar to MRSN. I would do the same type of play. Like, see how you're opening down 2% on this thing? So you got a weak open on this. So what you want to see is as it pulls, like, does it start to hold? Does it get bought up? And then does it go red to green? And once it takes out the previous day's high, then you have confirmation. But you usually want to be in a little bit before even you get the total confirmation. You don't want to be the president of the confirmation society in a market that's a little bit up and down. You know, when the market is like just going up straight up every day, yeah, you can chase a little bit and you can have confirmation, but you don't need to be the president of this confirmation club. When the market's a little bit choppier, you want to, right, start using your teachings and your skill and anticipate the plays a little bit better, because you'll be able to get better entries with, you know, tighter stops. That way, if they don't work, they just don't work. This DNLI is another biotech stock that was like just going ham yesterday. You got really nice biotechs in general were hot yesterday. You know, if you look at like Labu and stuff, you had a nice range on this one too. Like that thing, I'd add that to the list too. This is a big time breakout. This is also an IPO. This is also an IPO. So this is a weekly chart. It's only a 2018 issue, so it's a fairly new company. Biotech's a bit hot. $3 billion market cap. That kind of that, you know, $3 to $20 billion market cap kind of stock has really worked well this year. They used to be considered large cap, and now they're just mid caps or whatever. It's a nice one. It's a buenos. So that's the list. Workhorse is still in play. Let's keep that on. We got these bios. Donkey Kong for day 2. Ideally, this thing, you know, Donkey Kong does this a lot, right? Ideally, it just dumps at the open. Man, if we got this thing even like halfway back, 47, 46, woo, we'll be able to scoop up some. We will be able to scoop this thing up and like shred it like men. We definitely wanna add that one. Keep it. Penzilla is also breaking out. Donkey Kong, Penzilla, these all run together. I think Pen works a little bit better. I mean, Pen has a nice rate, but Donkey Kong is fresher in terms of the breaking of consolidation, because yesterday was just day 1 of the breakout. So that's the list. I'm sticking to it. You can add an eye on all this kind of stuff. I mean, there's more. I mean, every chart looks good. The Beaky, yeah, Beaky looks good, but it's a little bit long in the tooth coming into resistance. Yeah, every stock look good right now. You can give me any ticker and it look good. It's a matter of like, do we got the oomph that we need? Does it got the catalyst? And does it fit kind of the themes of like what's working, you know, in today's market? So that's the list. I'm sticking to it. Anybody got any questions? Good. And Chewy pass. If I could turn back time, if I could find a way, I'd get back, You say I'ma reach for the stars. Alright, let's go time. Yeah, yesterday was hot. Let's keep it going. Peloton could work. You know, I've been watching it. Alright. This is the big game, friends. Yesterday was hot. Today's Tuesday. I got some hurricane coming down up on my balls today. So if I lose power while we're trading, I got my backups and stuff. And you know how it goes. We always lose power. You know, hopefully this thing would let me finish the trading day. I don't even know there was a hurricane coming. I don't have cable. So there's a... Fuck, I don't know. Somebody texted me and said, hey, the hurricane coming. Next thing you know, gotta batten down the hatch. Charge up my iPad. Because the last thing you want to do is be without power. You got no iPad. iPad is life, isn't it? So we'll see what's going down. All right, rock and roll, peoples. Let's do this.